20% of all the world's oil flows through a gap just 21 miles wide. But you see, what if these accidents occurring there aren't actually failures of diplomacy at all? What if they are, in fact, the calculated successes of shadow finance? Fellow history buffs, welcome to the investigation. Just look at those shimmering, oil-slicked waters of the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, on the surface, sure, it looks like a simple maritime passage. In reality, though, it is the jugular vein of the entire global economy. A single spark here, a single well-timed incident can collapse markets from New York to Tokyo in just a matter of hours, right? We've been conditioned to believe that the chaos we see on the evening news, the seized tankers, those mysterious explosions, the naval standoffs, is simply the result of volatile dictators and failing treaties. But there's a different story hidden deep in the archives, one that doesn't exactly make it into the mainstream history books. We call it the Operation Black Gold File. As we dig into these 21 miles of salt water, the evidence suggests that the geopolitical tension isn't a bug in the system, it's the primary feature. This isn't just about regional rivalry. I'm telling you, it's about a carefully scripted theatrical performance designed for a very specific audience of global elites. While the world watches in fear, a shadow network of financiers and deep state architects are moving the pieces on the board, ensuring that the price of energy and the power that comes with it remains firmly under their thumb. Chillingly calm, the question isn't why we can't achieve peace in the Strait. The real question is, who stands to lose everything if the accidents finally stop? Put on your headphones and lock the door. We're going beneath the surface of the world's most dangerous chokehold to find out who is really pulling the strings. Now, fellow history buffs, if you turn on any major news network or open a standard history textbook, the narrative you'll find is, well, it's almost surgically clean. You see, the Strait of Hormuz is consistently presented as the jugular vein of the global economy, a narrow 21-mile-wide strip of water where 20% of the world's petroleum passes through every single day. The official story is simple. It's a volatile flashpoint, a powder keg waiting for a rogue match, and the world is lucky, right, to have a protector. Enter the hero of this scripted drama, the global policeman. Specifically, the Fifth Fleet, patrolling these turquoise waters with carrier strike groups that cost more than the annual GDP of many small nations. We're told their presence is the only thing standing between your affordable lifestyle and a total global meltdown. It's a classic tale. I mean, a story of order versus chaos, of a civilized force keeping rogue actors at bay just to ensure the lights stay on from London to New York. But here's where the script starts to feel, well, a little too polished. You see, think about the sheer scale of the surveillance involved. I mean, we are talking about one of the most heavily monitored, high-tech, and weaponized patches of ocean on the planet. The Pentagon can identify a license plate from space and track a single cell phone through a crowded city. Yet somehow, mysterious limpet mines keep appearing on the hulls of tankers, and unidentified actors continue to disrupt the flow of oil with startling regularity.
Does it strike you as odd that the most powerful military force in human history seems unable to solve, right, a security problem in such a tiny, geographically contained area? In the dark world of shadow operations and deep state strategy, there's an old rule. If you want to justify an infinite budget and a permanent seat at the table, you can't ever actually win the war. You need the threat to be eternal. We've been conditioned, to see the military-industrial complex as the brave lifeguard at a dangerous beach. But as we begin to peel back the layers of these accidents, a much more sinister possibility emerges. Is the policeman actually there to stop the fires, or is he the one secretly holding the matches? It sounds like a reach, right? Until you realize there was one specific detail about the most recent crisis that the mainstream media completely ignored. Fellow history buffs, when we really peel back those classified cables, the ones that never make it to the light of day, we find a reality far darker than any evening news broadcast would ever dare to mention. I mean, we're talking about the actual blueprint for a very specific kind of power, one where the deep state isn't some weird shadow cabinet in hooded robes, but a sophisticated revolving door network of defense contractors, central bankers, and intelligence spooks. And for this group, well, a peaceful Strait of Hormuz isn't the goal. In fact, it's a direct threat to their bottom line. You see, peace is a terrible investment. If the strait were truly safe, if the oil flowed without a hint of friction and regional tensions just evaporated overnight, a multi-trillion-dollar industry would essentially go bankrupt. The machine requires what we call a controlled crisis to stay lubricated. I mean, just think about the scale of the defense budgets we're talking about here. We're conditioned to think these trillions are spent to achieve victory, but when you look at the patterns, it becomes clear the goal isn't to win the war. The goal is to keep the threat eternal. Instability, it turns out, is the most profitable commodity on Earth. But this isn't just about selling more missiles or securing another round of funding for a secret drone program, right? It's about the very foundation of the global financial system, the petrodollar. Since the mid-70s, the world has operated on a simple, unspoken rule. If you want to buy oil, you use the US dollar. This forces every nation on the planet to keep massive reserves of American currency, effectively allowing the US to export its debt and maintain its status as the world's only superpower. The Strait of Hormuz is the carotid artery of this entire system. As long as that waterway is perceived as a danger zone, the world remains dependent on the U.S. military to act as the global bodyguard. That protection is the glue that holds the dollar's value together. If the U.S. Navy isn't there to guard the oil, well, the world starts asking why they need the U.S. dollar to buy it in the first place.
It makes you wonder what would actually happen to the American economy if the Strait of Hormuz suddenly became the safest place on the planet. If the forever threat vanished, the entire logic of our financial dominance would come crashing down. But that's not even the craziest part. While the public is busy watching the headlines about tankers and naval skirmishes, there was one specific detail in the latest intelligence briefing that everyone missed. A detail that suggests the next crisis isn't being planned in a war room in the Middle East, but in a boardroom much closer to home. Fellow history buffs, welcome to the blueprint. To truly understand how a modern crisis is manufactured, we have to look at the architectural drawings of the past. This isn't just a series of random geopolitical accidents. It's a choreographed four-step playbook designed to keep the world on edge and the money flowing into the right pockets. Step 1 takes us back to the 1980s. You might know it as the Iran-Iraq War, but for those in the shadow rooms, well, it was the beta test. This was the tanker war, the first time the world realized that hitting a single ship in the Strait of Hormuz could send shockwaves through every stock exchange on the planet. In analytical terms, look closer at the earnest will operation. The U.S. began reflagging Kuwaiti tankers as American ships. It was a brilliant move, right? By turning commercial vessels into sovereign American territory, any minor skirmish became an act of war, providing a permanent legal tripwire for U.S. naval intervention. The forever presence wasn't an accident, it was the intended outcome of the first test run. Fast forward to 2019, Step 2, the Limpet Mine anomaly. This is where the forensic evidence starts to crumble under even the slightest scrutiny. You remember the headlines, I'm sure. Tankers like the Kokuka Courageous were allegedly attacked by Iranian mines. The official proof was a grainy, low-resolution video released by the Pentagon. But here's the detail the mainstream media conveniently buried. The ship's owner and the crew themselves flatly contradicted the official narrative. They reported seeing flying objects strike the ship well above the waterline, not mines attached by divers. Why would the official report ignore the actual eyewitnesses? Because a rogue state mine fits the playbook. A sophisticated, precision-guided projectile from an unknown actor? Well, that does not. The holes in the story weren't mistakes, they were part of the fog of war. This brings us to Step 3, the currency connection. If you want to know when the next Hormuz crisis will spontaneously erupt, stop looking at troop movements and start looking at the strength of the US dollar. There is a chilling correlation here. I mean, every time a major rival, whether it's the EU with the euro or China with the petro-yuan, makes a significant move to settle oil trades in a non-dollar currency, the Strait of Hormuz suddenly becomes a danger zone. In 2019, as China began its massive push for yuan-denominated oil futures, the tankers started burning. It's the ultimate protection racket. If you want your oil to pass through the world's most dangerous choke point, you'd better pay for it in the currency that funds the Navy guarding it.
Finally, Step 4, the algorithm of fear. In the age of high-frequency trading, shadow entities no longer need to wait for a war to start to make a profit. They've developed what some insiders call a fear-based short. By leaking specific intelligence or orchestrating a minor maritime incident, these entities trigger massive sell-offs in global markets. They short the very oil companies and shipping lanes they claim to be protecting, netting billions in seconds before the truth even catches up to the headlines. It's a closed-loop system where the crisis is the product. But that's not even the most unsettling part of the architecture. While these 4 steps explain how the crises are built, they don't explain who is actually holding the stopwatch. Because if you look at the exact timing of the latest naval incidents, you'll find a pattern that points away from the Middle East entirely and toward a secret meeting that took place in the Swiss Alps just 48 hours before the first alarm bells rang. Everyone is looking at the ships, but no one, and I mean no one, is looking at the manifest of a private jet that landed in Zurich with a cargo that shouldn't even exist. As we pull back the curtain on this operation, you know the image that emerges isn't one of a conflict nearing an end, but of a machine designed to run forever. That private jet in Zurich, well, it wasn't carrying diplomats seeking a ceasefire, it was carrying the architects of a self-sustaining cycle. You see, fellow history buffs, in the high-stakes world of the deep state, the goal isn't to actually win a war in the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, winning implies a conclusion, and a conclusion is just bad for business.
In this shadow world, security is the ultimate protection racket, right? It's the mask worn by those who profit from the very threats they claim to prevent. They sell you the fear, the nightmare of a global energy collapse, and then they present the only solution available, an endless billion-dollar presence of naval patrols and intelligence contracts. The payoff to this entire investigation is as simple as it is chilling. The incident isn't a problem to be solved, it's a commodity to be maintained. Every time a tanker is intercepted or a missile is fired, the stock prices of defense contractors stabilize and the leverage of shadow players increases. The tension is the fuel. So as we close the file on Operation Black Gold, I'm leaving you with a final warning. Intense. The next time you see a breaking news alert about a new escalation in the Strait, ignore the pundits and the panicked talking heads. Don't look at the ships, look at the ledger, because that's where the real battle is being fought, and that's where the true winners are hiding in plain sight. Mysterious. Stay skeptical, fellow history buffs, knowing the truth is rarely found on the surface, you know. If you're ready to dig deeper into the secrets they don't want you to know, hit that subscribe button and join our Shadow Intelligence Unit. Softly, and if you've seen through the lie today, let me know by commenting "The Ledger" below. Until next time, keep your eyes on the money and your mind on the truth.